What's going on, friends? Logan Myerz here for Cinephellas.com, and we're back doing 31 Days of Horror. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about the 1983 classic film written by Stephen King and directed by my favorite horror director, and probably my favorite director in all the genres. I'm talking about the master of horror himself, John Carpenter. So in the film, we have a teenager named Arnie Cunningham, a take on Happy Days. Stephen King did that on purpose. Played by Keith Gordon. He's a young, awkward, nerdy teenager that, character we've seen in many movies. He comes across this 1958 Plymouth Fury, falls in love with it. It's a piece of shit car. He buys it for like $300. And that's when weird shit starts happening. It's a setup of a kid falling in love with a car. A lot of us can relate to that. Being a teenager, having your freedom, having a car to go wherever you want to go. Besides that, Arnie's parents are really giving him a hard time. He's a geek, he does good in school. This is his one release, and he's fighting his parents about the car. He's going to keep it, but he can't keep it at the house. He has to keep the car at a garage. So the first act of the movie, we have this nerdy kind of kid, but from the second and the third act, you see how his character kind of transforms. He's more gutsy and ballsy, and he tells you to fuck off. He has attitude, and it really all kind of correlates with him getting the car. So it's the setup of this car having these weird supernatural superpowers. And watching this film for the first time in a long time, I haven't seen Christine since I was probably a teenager. Rewatching this and just realizing John Carpenter directed this film, it's a film that doesn't really feel like it would fit in with the John Carpenter universe, but it still has touches of John Carpenter, if that makes any sense. Let's talk about the score. It definitely sounds like a very John Carpenter-esque score with a lot of synthesizers and keyboards. There's a few shots and a few sequences with the music. It kind of reminded me of Halloween 3 for some odd reason, but you can definitely tell in this movie the score is done by John Carpenter, and it really gives it that eerie feeling and eerie tones that we all know and love from Mr. Carpenter. Arnie falling in love with this car. He's also has this relationship with the teenage girl. Alexandra Paul is the actress. She plays Lee, and then we have Arnie's best friend, which is like the cliche 80s jock that plays on the football team. It's good looking, and a great cast of young actors in this movie for sure. They definitely had some really good dialogue and chemistry together on screen. And throughout the rest of the movie, just all this weird things start happening, cool. So with him having this car, everybody's looking at him, and in a way, it's him taking revenge on all the people that really hurt him. There's this group of like greasers that all look like 45. They're playing 16-year-olds in this movie, which is unbelievable. They're fucking with Arnie's Christine, his car, beat it up. And it's pretty sweet because this car gets totaled so many times in this movie, but the car fixes itself. And the way that they filmed it, I guess John Carpenter spent like $500,000 on a bunch of these Plymouth Furies from 1958 because it kept smashing them. Like in the cruncher where it smashes the car. And how they did it, they reversed the camera, so they total a bunch of these cars, and when it comes back to life and after it's totaled and it's back to its normal shape again, that's how they did it with the camera. Really, really cool, for being 1983 and watching it last night. The effects are really well done. That's one of the things that Carpenter is known for, his keen eye to the camera and his effects. So leading up until the end of the movie, we've seen the downfall of Arnie in the car. There's some deaths in the car from the previous owner, and teenagers in this town are coming up dead, and Christine is pretty much the focal point as to being the murderer behind these killings. There's some witnesses seeing the car out late at night, and so they're questioning Arnie, and of course he's all like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And people seeing how the car was going into the garage and it was completely totaled. Then it comes out the next day, it's in pristine condition. It's a really great film. Rewatching it for the first time in a long time, I had an absolute blast with this. I kind of went in with lower expectations because I remember it not being that great, but I absolutely loved it. Pay attention to the way that shots are filmed, the score, the dialogue, everything like that. It's a really solid chapter in the John Carpenter universe. I'm going to give Christine from 1983, directed by John Carpenter, a 4 out of 5 car hair pieces. So what'd you guys think of Christine? What's your favorite movie in the John Carpenter franchise? What did you like about Christine? What didn't you like about it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. This is Logan Myerz signing out with a good old friend of mine, Christine. Until the next 31 days of horror reviews. Cheese!